There are moments in life that don't just change you. They break the wall between who you thought you were and who you actually are. One of the members in the private group, through presence, surrender and awareness, crossed that wall. She didn't chase the out-of-body experience. She softened into it. And what happened next was contact with guides, with soul, with awareness beyond identity. And I want you all to hear this, not to idolize the experience, but to understand what's possible when fear is no longer the authority. Day, thank you for joining me today. You're a private member of our group and someone who's valued and appreciate very much. And I love the conversations that you bring, and I love the conversations that we all have. And I think it's very important that we all speak as much as we can to each other and get our message out there so we can help everyone remember together. I don't know much about you because I've only just kind of started this. So I want people to get to know you before we start talking about your experience that you had. The only thing I kind of know is that you've got a yoga channel on YouTube called Present Day Yoga, and you go by Day. Yeah, that's kind of it. So if you can just kind of tell people who you are and what your life was before you had this experience.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much, Sasha. I'm so happy to be here and get to share with you. I love being a part of the group. It's been a very special experience. I do have a yoga channel. My day job is that I work in real estate. But other than that, my heart is really devoted to like helping people in the ways that I can, whatever that might be. So teaching yoga is something that I started about 5 years ago. And so that form of yoga that you'll see on my channel is actually called yin yoga. And so it's a type of yoga that helps people remove trauma from their body.
I've never heard of that. I didn't know that yoga could do such a thing. So yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, it's a very fascinating practice. And of course, I started with myself to process trauma out of my own body. And then from there, was able to start helping other people. I'm also a mom. My son is 6 years old. My husband is an artist. He's a full-time artist for well over 20 years now. And he's a muralist and multifaceted artist. So we have an interesting, fun life over here.
Well, see, that's what I think is amazing. Any human, any average person, any hardworking person, any normal person who's a wife, a husband, a child, a brother, a sister can achieve this. It's just about finding yourself and going in and going deeper and letting go. But I suppose you need the kind of intention and determination to want to know more about yourself and who you are and what reality is.
Right. I would agree with that. It's sort of like never give up. The desire to like uncover mystery is kind of what seems to have led to this.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you want it hard enough, if you want it like deep enough, then the doors will open. Knock and the doors will open. That's kind of the saying. I think Jesus said that, and I think it's true. Right. I want to take you to this night. I want to kind of know the build up, the lead up, what happened before the experience. What was your mindset? What was your expectations, if you had any? And yeah, how did you feel?
Maybe the week before, when I had joined your group after seeing you, I believe I first saw you on Paradigm Experience and then saw you in a couple other places, and then started following you and joined and started getting some of your guidance. I started noticing that my fear was a big obstacle. And you had explained to me about letting go and surrender. And you had explained to me about letting go of expectations, because I had big expectations, because I had been asking very specific things. Like I wanted to meet my guides, because I felt for quite a while that I had like a group of helpers, whatever that may be. And so I had been kind of like making some demands, and I had like high expectations. And you had said to, let go of my expectations and just to completely relax. And so I had been, I think because I had such high expectations, whenever I would come to what we call maybe a door or a portal or an opening type of opportunity, my chest would pound with such fear that I couldn't move forward. And so after talking to you, I started to just totally be like, you know what? It doesn't even matter. And so on this particular night, I noticed that it was just a perfect, you know how sometimes you want to and it's tough to make time, but then sometimes it's just like the perfect opening for it. And that's how it felt, you know, like I put my son to bed and then I was like, I think this is like the perfect time. Like it's not that late. Everybody's asleep. So, but as I was walking that way to go do it, I was like, this, you know, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to lay down. I'm just going to relax. It's totally fine. I'm just going to relax. And I kept that sort of mindset and that I was just saying, I'm just open to receive information. I'm just open. It's no big deal. And I was saying that over and over again until you know, and then eventually laid down with my earbuds, my binaural beats. That's how it started.
Okay, so we've got to that point now where you've settled down, you've kind of hit this sweet spot. You've had kind of this perfect day of letting go, not really focusing on the fear, and just you've got this mindset of I'm open to receive.
Yes.
Whatever happens will happen. So at that point, I think you mentioned to me that you do some kind of meditation, do you?
I do. I typically put my body to sleep in various ways. I kind of choose what's resonating with me on that day. But I put my body to sleep from like the toes up. On that day, I had decided to work with this idea of black water. Sometimes I'll use different lights or different colors as just an idea to work with. But the reason I had chosen the black water is because a few days before, whenever you had told me about relaxing and releasing expectations, I had explained to you that I had seen. So another thing I learned from you is that I enter these states through the hypnagogic, basically like a trance. And so I had an experience that I shared with you and asked you about this black water, because what happens is I'll be dreaming sort of just a regular dream, but I'll be fairly conscious in the dream, almost like I'm just enjoying like playing in a movie or something. And then all of a sudden the substance of the dream will shift. The realness of it will shift, the feeling, the texture, the sound, everything will change. And a few nights earlier, this suddenly had happened in a dream and this black water had appeared. And I felt that I was being told to go into it, but I was using so much of my analytical mind that I couldn't go into the water because I was like, I don't know how to breathe underwater. And so, of course, my heart started pounding under my chest. And the next thing you know, I wake up and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I had gone to you and you said the black water is a portal and that I don't have to breathe underwater because my soul's radiance will essentially breathe for me type of thing. That's how I received it. That may not be a direct quote, but so when I laid down that night, I was like, well, I'm going to work with this black water. And I just like went full throttle. So what I did was from my toes all the way up, I just imagined that this black water was kind of like pouring down and just consuming every part of my body and putting it to sleep, but also sort of changing its substance, because you had explained to me that rather than imagine myself like trying to breathe under the water, imagine myself becoming the water. And I was like, that was the ticket that I needed. And so as I laid there, in bed, I started to imagine every bit, like the toes, the ankles, every bit was becoming the water and that feeling of becoming the water. And then the vibrational state started coming on, and when the water or whatever it is I'm working on gets up toward the heart area, a lot of times, sometimes my heart will start beating a lot faster at that point, but then all of a sudden it will just calm down. It will just surrender. And it did. And I actually fell asleep. It was like the most relaxing thing ever. And I fell asleep and, I woke up. I knew from my binaural beats, I woke up an hour later and I was like, nothing happened, but I was totally okay with it because I had just surrendered and took the earbuds off and I rolled on my side and went to sleep. And then that's when the other stuff came.
I'm really pleased that you take on what I say, because it's hard for me because I don't kind of want to come across like a teacher or a preacher, but at the same time, I always speak from experience and truth. So when I hear you guys say something, I'm like, oh, I've been through that. I know what to do there. So obviously I say it, but it just shows, and I'm grateful for it, that you've took what I said, you've listened, and you've literally integrated it.
Mm-hmm.
And what you did was perfect. Like what you did was perfect in that moment. And it's why kind of the experience stopped and you went to sleep. But that wasn't a failure of the experience. That literally was you passed the threshold. You walked through that doorway and went to sleep, which is why it led you through the doorway into the next experience.
Yes.
It is all about surrender. It is all about surrender because it's all you. All you're doing is exploring your own consciousness, your own soul. Thank you for taking what I've said, and thank you for integrating it, because it clearly shows that it's helped, and that's what I want to do. I want to help.
Yes. Integration. I mean, that's a key point. Integration is something that I think you teach very well, even though you say you're not trying to teach, you're just sharing your experiences in truth. But it does teach. You know, integration, that's something that you shared with us as well, was like, I remember I really paid attention because I saw the notification come through and you're like, you all need to stop being afraid, you know, and you were like, because you're sovereign, and like you were telling us who we are. And then shortly thereafter, you started talking about your fear, and I don't want to misquote you, so this is more from how I've taken it. But my fear is a part of me that is trying to protect me, essentially. It's almost like my fear loves me, you know, that's how I started to take it. So when I'm doing my meditations and we approach my heart area, and my heart is like, boom, boom. My heart is like, I'm afraid. I don't know what's going to happen, you know? And so I started saying, based on what you shared, I started saying, thank you. I love you. Thank you. That is my fight or flight fear showing up, that it cares for me. I love you and thank you, and everything's going to be okay. And it's just like, oh, okay. Like, you acknowledge that I'm here. You understand that I'm putting up a red flag, and we can go together. Amazing.
Yeah, 100%. You took that perfectly. Fear's trying to protect you. Fear loves you, and what's stopping us from kind of taking fear with us is showing fear the same love. We don't show that same love to fear as fear shows us. We're actually scared of fear. So
That's big.
And it's all about loving yourself. It's all about loving yourself. Every part of you. Fear's another part of you, so you shouldn't be afraid of it. Just like you shouldn't be afraid of your infinite soul. Mm-hmm. Okay. Go through the experience from the start, from when you woke up in a dream, I think. So yes. If you can just.
So I began to have a lucid dream where I was in a house with my parents, and it was a familiar home, and we were just talking and things, and I walked past the front door of the house. And these were wooden floors that I was walking on. So I remember that I could hear my steps, and the door was cracked open, and I could see onto the front porch, and everything past the door was so different than the inside of the house. It was alarming. I can still feel my heart. My heart was scared in that moment, because there was a group of people standing on the porch, almost like if you were to see Christmas carolers or something. They were standing on the porch and they were facing inside the house, but they were completely frozen, which was very eerie. I mean, they were like facing inside, and they were statuesque, and they had light shining on them from above. And I could see, interestingly, like every texture, and their color was rich, and I could see the shadows of them. So like when I dream in a lucid dream, it almost has like an underwater effect, you know, like everything is like maybe a little warbly, you know, even in a lucid dream. But they were not. They were crisp. Okay. And so it was so eerie that I remember I saw the door cracked, and I go, in my dream, and I just hightailed it past that door. I was like, no way. And so I go back, and I'm having conversation with my father, and then I have to go get something again. So I cross across the house again. And interestingly, my dad calls across the house, and he says, what is it about the name Andy again? Which I don't know the name Andy, but he says, what is it about the name Andy again? And I call across the house to him, and I say, it's easy for Andy to have OBEs. And after I said that, I began walking toward the other side of the house again, and my steps started to echo. The room started to get more and more real, more and more real, more and more real, almost like my senses awakened from here outward. Like I could hear better, I could see better, I could feel better. My body was more present. And I approached the door again, not wanting to, not meaning to. And this time it's open even more, and they're still there. And I felt the arresting of my heart, and I felt angry because I'm like, why are you in my dream and you're scary? And I opened the door this time, and I actually thought to myself, like, I'm gonna attack these intruders, basically. And so I took my hand up and I pointed at them, and I called to my father and I said, Dad, there's some people here and I want you to. And before I could even get the words out, all of a sudden I was drawn to the threshold of the door, like not steps, but like drawn there. And this woman who was considerably taller than me comes down and hugs me. And I can feel her hair and her skin and her clothing and and she says, we're here for you. We're here to protect you. And this familiar feeling came over me of finally, kind of like finally. And I just started crying and I said, oh my God, sister, thank you so much. And I sort of buried into her and just started to cry. And I could still feel a sense of my real body. So I feel like some wetness come. And right when I was kind of about to say something else about how grateful I was that she was there and that they were there, she pushes me forward and she goes, we don't have time for this. And during our hug, I had moved through the threshold. And as I went through the threshold, I can tell you that part of it was like my psyche was, my consciousness, it was separated between dream world is going this way, pretend world, and like part of those dreams were kind of pulled this way, while as this different sharp consciousness moved into this room. So she says, we don't have time for this, because I feel as though now I know that she knew I was not going to be able to stay in the state for very long. Like you hear people talk about being sucked out or pulled out of their OBE experiences. So she shifts me into the room. She says, we don't have time for this. And I look up, and now I'm in like a room, and it's black toward the back of the room. And I wish I could explain in words how it truly looked and felt. When I walked into the room, my steps, I heard them and I felt them. It's hard to create the words to explain the lighting in the room and the way that everyone looked, but it was very much like if you were to just step into a different existence. And even my understanding of my life and who I was, it's sort of like pulled back, and I was in a whole new sort of world and existence. And so the second that she let me go and I looked up, I saw them there, and I saw a number of people, and something happened as I'm looking at them where it's almost like, I don't know how to explain it, but maybe like a remembering, like, oh, wait. And I went, you're my guides, like instantly. And I have no idea how I knew that, how I said that. That didn't feel of my own. So anyways, I said that. And the second I said that, one individual walked past. They weren't using their words to talk. I mean, they weren't using their mouth to talk, but he walked past me, and he had like a hat like this, and he looked at me. He goes, yep. But he kind of seemed like he wanted to get a closer look, and that's why he walked past me like this, and then he went around me and was on this side. The same time that he said yep and stepped around me, there was this native man behind him. Now, these people were very tall and slender, and the native man was wearing blue like the woman at the threshold. And he was tall, and behind him, I could see that it was like galactic space behind him. And he also said yes in a different energy. And I instantly, for an unknown reason, I said, okay, let me count you. And later, I don't know why, and later on, I realized that telepathically someone said in the room, we don't have much time and she wants to count us. And then someone else telepathically said, that's important to her. Okay. So I shift to my left because I knew he had come around, and I went 1, 2, 3, and I turned this way, 4, 5, 6, and I double checked, And then I said, I thought there were 8 of you, which again, huh? I mean, I have no idea. 8 of you, I need to count. I don't know. I feel now looking back that partially my higher self, just having more knowledge in that moment, like new questions that needed to be answered that were far beyond me behind the veil knowing. Oh, I forgot to mention one thing. When she said, we don't have time for this, and brought me into the room, she said, we don't have time for this. Ask the questions you want to ask. And then that's when I looked at them and kind of went, what? And had that experience of remembering. So anyhow, so I counted them. And do you want to cut in or?
Yeah, well, firstly, when you have a dream, you know that you don't remember dreams that much.
Mm-hmm.
You are literally reliving every single part of this as if it was a lived experience. Mm-hmm. Even the dream part of it, the echoes that you could hear, the feeling. It was almost like when you hugged each other, she guided you through, because she maybe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is kind of my interpretation, but it was kind of, she maybe felt like she could sense your fear and you wouldn't go through, so she hugged you to bring you through that threshold. And when you said like sister, and you knew there should have been 8, and it was all telepathic, you know, you're saying you're not sure how you know. 100% you knew these beings, you knew these people.
Right.
You're familiar with them, you felt that familiarity. Yes. When you mentioned that they were kind of just staring when you walked past the first time, in dreams, you've very rarely or don't ever at all go past the place and then go back and the same thing is still there. Something's changed. You went past, went back, and they were still there. So that's a big kind of hint of you experience something more than just a dream. But the important thing is, when you're in a dream, you forget probably 99% of it, but in this case, you haven't. So we got to, I think you were talking about the native.
Right.
And said yes in a different.
Yes. And yes, he said yes in a different energy. And then I said, I thought there were 8 of you. And then he spoke again and he said, yes, there are, but something is going on right now. And when he said that, I had a whole flood of emotion. It was just interesting because I didn't know what all those feelings were connected to, but it was this idea or understanding that there was some kind of trouble that needed to be addressed. And he said, if you would like, we can talk about it together in private as souls. And I knew when he said that, he was saying I could go with him and we could go together into that galactic space that was over his shoulder. I heard in my internal voice saying, yes, go. But I got a little distracted looking in this direction at the woman who had hugged me through the portal. Yes, she did hug me through that portal. I got a little distracted with something that she was doing, and I still heard myself saying, yes, go with him. And by the time I looked back toward him, I was back in my body in a very intense way. I came back in kind of like big, deep breath, but then also I felt like I was molecularly being restructured one cell at a time or something in my bed. It was very odd, the feeling. Like it was almost as if I got re-downloaded into my bed and woke up with that big deep breath. And my first instinct, which was fear, was to literally panic. I don't know why. And then once I saw the panic begin to come, I said, no. I shifted it over and I said, that was real. That really happened. Write it down. And I just shifted my focus to recording it instead of being afraid. And then it took some time to assimilate that in, but I would say that was actually life-changing.
I know exactly what you mean by the gasp, and I also know what you mean by the fear. And the fear is just your identity trying to organize itself based on the new awareness that it's just kind of expanded into. It's the same thing that I've been mentioning when you approach a threshold and your body tries to protect you. It's the same thing when you come back from an experience like that. Your body's like, oh, what's this? It's expanded. It's not me. It's not my comfort zone. And it tries to protect you. That's all that is. But it's normal. It's natural. It happens. Yeah, I think this was an amazing experience. Really detailed. Really, there's everything in it. There's like your familiarity with your potential soul family or soul group. There's the hypnagogic state before, there's the meditation, there's the sweet spot that you felt before that. There's the potential lucid dream. When I went into a dream from a hypnagogic state, it was a bit more than a dream. And I think this is exactly what you experienced as well. Even though you went to sleep and then woke up in a dream, it sounds to me like it was just that little bit more than a dream.
It was a little more, yeah, I was a little more crisp and aware during that dream. For sure.
Yeah. I think it's an amazing, exciting experience. I think everyone kind of needs to hear this. How do you feel now? Do you feel like you've gained more of yourself? How are you feeling?
Yes. And I went on a whole journey from that moment, because that was not the end of it. You know, I started to journal and ask questions and pray and say, okay, I want to understand, you know, about what was unsaid and what was attempting to be shown to me. And I followed a trail of breadcrumbs, you could say, through my prayers and my following meditations, and actually uncovered some. It's somewhat personal, but I'll just say that, like, almost a spiritual emergency in my life that I didn't know was present very close to me, and was able to help and uncover that and help somebody even process some major trauma that was happening. And through that, my life took a complete shift. And there was a moment when I was working through those things that all of a sudden my mind sort of went, like, I don't know how to explain it, but almost like a deja vu, but not that exact feeling, where I realized that the things that I was piecing together and working through was what was discussed in the dream. Or I guess it's
Like
more than a dream.
Kind of thing.
What was that?
Like an aha moment or a resonance.
Yes, like a resonance that this was the thing that I needed to urgently get help with spiritually. And that's partially why I received that message, and why there was this idea that there was something incomplete, because I feel like my spiritual guides needed me to understand that from my perspective of this, like, linear timeline life that I'm living, there was an issue that needed to be dealt with. And so they presented it to me in that way to help me deal with something that was really serious. And so I don't necessarily know that there had to be an issue or piece missing, or if it was more so that they helped me to get to this point of saying, I thought there were 8. Oh, there's 6. Oh, there's an issue. You need to ask about the issue. You need to pray about the issue so we can uncover it for you. You know, either one is great and fine. And my life has, like, completely shifted. And that was just a couple weeks ago.
Wow. That's amazing. And I think you will be the only person that knows deep down exactly what anything meant in your experience. And I want to, like, encourage you that you don't need to kind of work anything out straight away. You don't need to think maybe this, maybe that. In my experience, everything comes as it comes, and listen to your intuition and have the knowing, and you'll know. Even if you're like, I'm not sure, but that's kind of that's probably what it is. You just know. These experiences give you what you will know to be true in your way. So they're very personal. They're very deep. But it also helps spark other people's flames to let everyone know there's more to life than this quote unquote physical reality and the quote unquote human body, the physical body. But yeah, I think it's amazing. Is there anything that you kind of want to say or want to add that I haven't asked you about?
I was just thinking, as you were talking just then, that it's such a transformative experience. It's amazing that you can, what we're calling an OBE, and people call by different names, and people get there through different means. But it is so amazing that when you go past the threshold of fear and into this other space where you are a different person you're the same person, but you're different in that you have some higher sense of knowing that you didn't have on the other side of fear. It's amazing that when I come back, I'll just speak about myself, but like when I come back over to the other side and back into this physical 3D reality however you want to refer to it, I'm changed. I'm not the same. It's like I brought back more of myself just by going there. It's truly one of the most transformative, if not the most transformative practice I've ever engaged in.
Yeah, it makes you look at yourself in a completely different way because you've experienced yourself in a different way. So when you kind of come back, it's not that you lose who you are. It's just that you bring back an expanded new perspective and you have to integrate that now into your human self because you know that that is you. You've just been there physically. You've been there. You've been that person. So how can you not be that person when you come back? So you
Right.
adding to yourself
Nice.
rather
Yeah.
than dissolve.
That makes so much sense. And I do think in the past, maybe when I didn't have knowledge, but I was having experiences, I think that I have come back and basically slammed the door on the idea of awareness of it, of the experience. Meaning, like when I first came back from that experience that I shared today, I had the possibility of instantly engulfing myself in fear as a way to almost erase it, to say, nope, that didn't happen. That was too crazy. That was too scary. And it was almost like that's what my psyche wanted to do at first. And so I think maybe I've done that at times in life, had some experience and basically not been open to integrating it, because that integration process, it's so much more than just a mental process. I mean, I had to integrate it into my whole body. It took time to process it through my body. Is really interesting.
Yeah, it's a download and it's weird because when you first wake up from it, you're like, oh, okay, like I can carry on being my normal self. That was cool, that was weird. But no, it's not like that. It's like I need some days here. I need to hold on. It's like the second day is deeper than the first day that you wake up and it's just like, oh, like that really happened. And it's literally like your body and your mind are now integrating this new you that you've experienced. And that's what it is. That's why it takes some time. You can't just go there, come back and be like, right, let's talk about this. This was great, because that's not kind of how it works. You need to fully bring it in.
Right. And I guess that's when people talk about like alchemical processes. I feel like maybe I'm starting to understand that a little more. Like it feels like I'm changing my physical makeup, because I even feel like lighter. There were ailments that I was dealing with, like stomach things that like went away, and I'm just kind of like, this is very interesting. Very interesting practice.
Yeah, it's amazing. But what I think is really important here for everyone to hear as well is that an OBE doesn't have to be achieved from sleep paralysis, and an OBE doesn't have to be achieved from hypnagogia. An OBE can be achieved from a dream, and that's exactly what this was. This was a dream-induced out-of-body experience. And yes, you did do your meditation, you did listen to the beats, you did have hypnagogic visuals and feelings beforehand, but ultimately you did have an OBE through a dream. Everyone can have them, and it's just about finding their path. Because I've tried kind of all, besides meditation, it's the only thing I haven't tried, but I've kind of tried all the ways, and for me it's sleep paralysis, but for you it seems to be this meditation and hypnagogic doorway kind of thing, and I think everyone's different and got their own way, and everyone needs to know that they can do it in different ways. Yeah, but this has been very special. I appreciate you a lot. I've told you, but I'm going to tell you again. I appreciate your support and things that you've said to me, and I appreciate how you take this seriously and you take me seriously, and you contribute in the group, and you're kind and you speak kindly to everyone and to me. And yeah,
thank you. Thank you, Sasha. I appreciate you too. I just love your spirit. It is so nurturing. And when I told my husband about you and showed him the guide, I downloaded the guide and printed it out and showed him and everything. And he was like, this is the type of person that you needed, because I needed that nurturing, patient, just love-centered guidance. So thank you. I'm so grateful for how gracious you are. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot. That means a lot. I'm just trying to get the word out there, but yeah.
You're doing awesome. And I just love it. And you're so unique in your spirit and how you offer what you offer. It's just so dang cool. So I am just honored to help any way I can.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the time out, and we'll catch up soon. We'll catch up.
All right. We will.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Sasha. Goodbye.
And this wasn't the end of her story. A second experience came shortly after, deeper, freer, clearer, and we'll share that one soon. What this shows is simple. Once awareness opens, it remembers the path. Fear doesn't close the door, only identity does. You don't chase the experience, you become available for it. If you feel called to go deeper, awareness, OBEs, identity, fear, the private group and the guide are below. Only join if it feels right. Either way, I appreciate you.